There really is no place in the world like Louisiana. 90% humidity, below sea level, a massive melting pot of lifestyles and cultures. Rivers that flood whole cities, parades, festivals, and celebrations that fill the streets with music and laughter. Highways lined with old oak trees running alongside bayous full of mysteries. I remember being a little girl and falling asleep in the car while my great-grandfather drove me to school. There was this long stretch in the highway that was lined with oak trees on either side, and I would become hypnotized by the sounds of country music and the blur of passing trees. The swamps of cypress, alligators, and Spanish moss. The sound of cicadas and bullfrogs. The heavy rain on my grandmother's roof. The winds of a hurricane. Everyone talks about how crazy hurricanes are, but you don't really understand what it's like to be in one until you do. In 2005, my mom and I stayed home for Katrina. I spent the whole hurricane in nothing but my conscience, constantly sweating. Years later, I found this drawing which my 7-year-old self captioned, "In Katrina, me and my mom could not stay in our house, so we went to my grandma's. I was so hot. We had no food to eat, but New Orleans had it worse than Shreveport or Thibodaux. They both flooded, and a lot of people died. Life is hard for a lot of people." I remember other hurricanes where my cousins and I ran around outside in the winds and rains of the hurricane with black trash bags tied around our necks like capes. We were always acting like such couillons. There was nothing else to do while the power was out but to play and be crazy. I think what I always loved most about people from Louisiana is that we truly understand struggle. We have all had to fight hard to survive since the very beginning. But we never let that take us down. We keep on celebrating life, and we're always saying, "Laissez les bon temps rouler." Let the good times roll. My great-grandmother Marilyn partially raised me in a house that sits next door to what was once her parents' house. My great-great-grandparents, which I knew until I was 9. Her parents had a potato farm on the lot where her house now stands. She married my great-grandfather at 17, and when he returned from the war, he built her this beautiful house. There she could be close enough to help her mother with raising her younger siblings. There she raised 3 boys of her own, and then my father, and later me. I will never forget the sweet Louisiana summer days riding my bike up and down the dirt path that led to the cane field in the back of the 1-acre property. Or the taste of fresh sugar cane on my tongue when my grandfather would finally cave and cut a piece open for me. I used to walk up and down the rows of that field almost every day to pick wild onions and blackberries and sit with my thoughts. Sometimes I would even get permission to walk all the way back to the woods behind the cane field, which used to be an old dump in the 1930s. I would hunt for vintage treasures, usually medicine bottles and that sort of thing, for hours. I didn't have the experience of childhood that most people my age had. It wasn't one consumed by television and phones and technology, but one of playing in the mud and being messy and jumping over ditches and running across fields. It was swinging for hours under oak trees and baking cakes with my grandmother. It was long rides to school listening to my grandpa's favorite country music. It was hours of practicing Carrie Underwood for American Idol because even though I was a terrible singer, my grandfather believed in me. As I got older, it was long drives home from work in the dead of night on the highway that ran next to the bayou. It was coasting around in a kayak in the swamps and in the bayous, staring up at the cypress trees and sharing the water peacefully with alligators. Everyone seems to think they want to eat you on sight, but in Louisiana, we live side by side. We share the waters together and respect each other's space and right to be on the water. It's a beautiful thing, really. Louisiana will always be my greatest home, my sanctuary, the place I feel most myself. C'est tout.